The voice of the drum calls. It sings a song of those who came before us and those to come. A song of survival and strength. A song of participation and voice. A song that calls us together. When we come together and participate in the 2010 census, we use this tool as the voice of all our Native people. Our voice. It is in our hands. 2010 census.
Okay, so welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Wednesday, March 24th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul DeMain. Many of the stories read here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Please join the Native American Journalists Association at the Crown Plaza St. Paul Riverfront in St. Paul, Minnesota on July 21st through the 24th of this year. This year, the Native American Journalists Association and the Native American Public Television will be co-sponsoring a Native Nations Media Conference there. The theme for this year's conference is Words plus Images times Technology equal Red Power. You can get information on that at NAJA.com. The National Museum of the American Indian announces the next deadline as April 5th, 2010 for applications to the NMAI Artist Leadership and Emerging Artist Program. If you are an Indigenous emerging artist or college student and interested in getting to see the collections of the National Museum, doing community art projects and creating new works of art, you are invited to visit the NMAI website at www.nmai.si.edu/ and click on the tab for Indigenous Contemporary Arts Program. And that information comes from Kevin Lewis, the museum programs coordinator for the National Museum of the American Indian. And it's Nightwolf, the most enlightening show on radio, on WPFW Pacifica FM Radio 89.3 on Friday, March 26th at 7 p.m. And that show will feature the issues of human trafficking in the state of Maryland. And that's with special guest Sidney Ford in Iroquois. Sidney Ford is a licensed clinical social worker who chairs the Maryland Human Trafficking Task Force Victim and Public Services Committee. She partners with numerous regional service providers and law enforcement colleagues to provide rapid response clinical crisis services to victims of human trafficking, training for law enforcement officers, healthcare workers, social service providers, students in the community, and victim advocacy and proceedings. And you can get more information on that one at WPFW.org. And they are looking for people for the 3rd Annual Native American National Championships and Open Community 5,000-meter run. That's coming up this Saturday, June 12th. You got a little time to plan for that at 9:15 a.m. at the Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute in Albuquerque, New Mexico. For more information on that or to have a registration or race flyer sent to you, please contact the coordinator there at sportswarriorstc@aol.com. Anishinabek leaders say naming Nipissing University's new learning library after former Canadian Premier Mike Harris would be an insult to First Nations citizens across the province. The Ipperwash Inquiry made it very clear that while he didn't personally pull the trigger, Mike Harris's actions as Premier of Ontario contributed to the circumstances that led to the shooting death of Anthony Dudley George on the night of September 6, 1995, according to Patrick Madabi, the Grand Council Chief of the Anishinabek Nation. Dudley George was a citizen of the Kettle and Stony Point First Nation, one of 40 member Anishinabek communities. Madabi was commenting on reports that Nipissing University in Harris's hometown of North Bay, Ontario, was planning to name a new learning library after the former premier, a move linked to the recent $15 million donation to the Faculty of Education by financier Seymour Schulich. And earlier this month, with no fanfare, two welders sparked a torch and linked two pieces of pipe in Superior, Wisconsin, the final touch in the 1,000-mile Alberta Clipper Oil Pipeline. The $1.2 billion Enbridge energy pipe has been laid, buried where needed, welded, pressure tested with water, and inspected, and it will start carrying Canadian crude oil to Superior in several weeks, months earlier than the company expected when work started in September. It was one of the largest construction projects ever in Minnesota, both in cost and in the number of workers on the job at a single time. The pipeline project continues to be challenged by the environmental and Indian activist groups who say that new oil isn't needed, that spills are likely along the route, and that Alberta tar sands crude oil creates excess pollution, especially carbon dioxide. And today we speak with Professor Richard Moynette from the University of Wisconsin in Madison. We ran some Ask Louise questions last week in regards to the Cobell trust suit settlement. And in return, people says there seems to be some mounting evidence of opposition to the settlement of the trust case. And we hear from Professor Moynette on a little bit about his particular concerns.
My biggest concern for the settlement is that it essentially ignored tribes. It was hatched quickly by the teams, the federal government, and the plaintiffs. It was then sent quickly by the judge to Congress with a deadline for Congress to act. And the numbers in the settlement were higher than the numbers that the court itself reached a couple of months ago, actually in December, in its close to final disposition of the case. And so just the mere fact that it basically went so fast raises concerns. The fact that it did so without consultation with the tribes themselves, tribal leaders, raises concerns. The fact that the amount of money on the table is higher than what the judge ordered also raises concerns. The fact that the judge wanted it to go quickly raises concerns. So all of those things that raise concerns should bring us to the table to look at this in light of the way other sort of class actions have evolved, settlements have evolved. I mean, these are new things for Indian country, and maybe this could be a new development that is an exciting and positive one, but these are not new in America. There are all kinds of concepts that come into play that, frankly, I think the haste here wanted us to overlook. And so I've asked those questions, and quite frankly, I don't think we've gotten very good answers.
And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian country on this edition of the Native News Update. I want to thank you for stopping by. Come by again soon. Miigwech.